How do you find your perfect wife? How do you find someone who you want to spend the rest of your life with? This is the topic of today's video. So let's listen to what the AI is asking and how I'm going to answer those questions. Maybe you can take away something from that. All right, let's go. Let's find out how to find the perfect wife.
So let's begin with the first question. Many of us have been led to believe that opposites attract is the secret to a romantic spark. Can you share a pivotal moment that made you question this widely accepted idea?
I think that the notion of opposites attract is bull. We're not magnets, we're people. And although there might be something exciting about finding somebody who is the opposite of yourself, because new things are exciting, when you're talking about a long-term relationship that has something on the line, like building a family, building a household, maybe having children, then I don't believe that opposites really help when it comes to values that you and your partner have. Instead, I believe that you actually have to come to an agreement on the things that you disagree. And also you should actually, first of all, explore what values does the other person have? Do they align with my values? Is that something that I can compromise with or not?
Looking back, how did the belief that I don't have a type influence your early dating life? And what was the turning point that changed this perception for you?
Yeah, when I was growing up, I think like many guys, I didn't want to have any bias, or I didn't want to appear like I have any bias. And so what I always would say, and I genuinely believe that, is that I don't have any type of woman that I wanted to date. But what I meant by that is really, I have no idea. And maybe I'll find someone that I love and like and love, and then I can just be that perfect partner. But as I went through several relationships, I realized that it actually is very helpful to come up with a perfect persona that is an ideal for you to find a wife. Simply because if you do not know what that is that you're looking for, you'll never realize that you found it if she ever comes up in front of you.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like having a clearer vision helps you recognize the right person when they come along. How did you go about defining this perfect persona? Did you find it challenging to identify what qualities were most important to you?
Yeah, I actually, after a failed relationship, first of all, I was in a long-term relationship when I was 15 to 24. That was great. That ended for other reasons. But then once I was towards my mid to late 20s, I came out of a relationship that went horribly wrong for all kinds of reasons. But that prompted me to really think about a little bit deeper about who might be the perfect partner for me. And I came up with the following scenario. So this is not something that goes for everyone. Everyone has to define their own values, obviously. But at the time, I was living in Hawaii, and I was actually dating Russian girls, and I also had I was dating Asian women at that time as well. And so what I realized that here are my criteria that I wanted to come up with. And again, this is just me specifically. For me specifically, it was the girl that I want to date and hopefully make my wife at some point should be somehow connected to Asian family culture. Why? Because I had a lot of friends that are Asian by nature, and they have brought over the Asian culture to America. And what I liked about the culture specifically is that they actually put a large emphasis on family values and traditional type of values when it even comes on interacting with their parents and also taking care of their parents, multi-generational living. And something about this makes sense to me and appealed to me, whereas I wasn't really interested in the more modern way of maybe millennials in the Western world, where you just go create your own tribe and all that, and kind of separate yourself from your family as soon as you leave the nest. So that just appealed a little bit more to me. Obviously, that lady also needs to be appealing, so she has to have all the visuals that I like. But I'm actually less focused on that, to be honest. It was more the humor and the way we can talk to each other. So we had family culture, we had the humor, the generally appealing, healthy look. Obviously, everybody should strive for that. And I am discriminating in a certain way against some people. And I think it's not wrong to discriminate. Another very important factor to me, there are two actually more important factors, was number one, I wanted the woman to be either an immigrant or trying to live in another country by herself. Why? Because I wanted to have an equal to myself. I was an immigrant as a baby into Germany, and then from Germany, I immigrated to America by myself just to make a living there. And I think that takes a certain type of person to do that, especially when you come from a country where you don't have to flee something. I came from Germany, which is not a bad country, and I wanted to have somebody who's my equal in that regard. So that was very appealing to me. And another fact that I wanted to have as a bonus, if possible, that girl should be entrepreneurially spirited. So if she had her own company or maybe worked on a project on her own, anything but just a corporate job, I think that will be great to have, because again, this is the direction that I always wanted to go, especially when moving to America. And I think it's just great to have not just a wife, but a partner in life, a partner in crime. And those are some of the values that I thought might be important to me to, be in agreement with. And that was basically my criteria.
Starting a long-term relationship at such a young age must have had its challenges. How did this experience become a cornerstone in building your character and views on commitment?
Yeah, like I mentioned, I had for me, and generally, I guess, accepted long relationship from the time that I was 15 to 24. And I think it was great because it kept me out of a lot of trouble, chasing girls on the weekends. I had my girl already at that time. And at the same time, it also kind of helped me grow in a relationship type of environment where, the initial phase fades away, and then you just kind of learn to live together, even though we weren't living in one place together, but we were obviously a couple. It just teaches you different type of aspects of relationships on a long term. And I feel like you mature at a different rate, and also your expectations from a relationship mature much faster than if you have those little days here and there, maybe a month, maybe half a year, this and that. So I'm very grateful for that.
Long distance relationships are often seen as doomed to fail. What insights can you share about how daily communication actually strengthened your connection?
I think that long distance relationships, at least in a certain time frame, can actually be beneficial. And hear me out why. So my wife and I, at that time when we started dating, we actually started dating, basically talking to each other before we met in person online. But we have met initially for a very brief moment. So we actually saw each other in person first. Then we started talking, reconnecting after a couple of months of seeing each other first. And then we went on to talk every single day via Messenger, DMs, and all that type of stuff. So what it did for us was to actively communicate with each other all the time. And yes, while there are a lot of things that might be not so cool about long distance relationship, I think it's actually not so bad when it comes to building a relationship that is based around understanding each other, based around genuine interest for each other and how their day was, what they're working on. So for us, in our specific scenario, it's my wife, who is Korean American. She actually was living in Poland, out of all places. And me, who was born in Poland, I was living in Hawaii. And so for about 1.5 to 2 years, we were on a mostly long distance relationship. Yes, we were traveling back and forth. Sometimes we would meet each other for a couple of months at a time. So there was a couple of gaps in between the long distance relationship. But overall, it's something where I feel like we got to know each other on a much deeper level because we would spend so much time just talking, essentially.
It's intriguing how sometimes constraints like distance can actually enhance certain aspects of a relationship. With this in mind, let's explore another aspect: Reflecting on the idea of being the perfect husband for your perfect wife, what personal changes did you embrace? And how did you balance self-improvement with self-acceptance?
Well, first off, I don't think I'm a perfect husband, and nobody is ever perfect. There's no perfect in nature, I believe. However, what I think is important in regards to, even when you come up with criteria for your perfect wife, right? Perfect wife in that regard, you have to ask yourself, after you come up with that persona, this person that I just created in my mind, am I the person that this person would be willing to date? Do I have to become that person? And if so, what do I have to do to become that guy? And that is an area of continuous improvement, continuous learning. And it's something that a lot of people don't even realize, whether it's a boy, girl, or girl, boy. That oftentimes we think about, if we do, oh, I want to date this person. But you never ask yourself, am I the person that they would be dating? And if not, who do I have to become without obviously sacrificing my own values and my own beliefs? Who do I have to become in order to be their partner? So that's what I mean with continuous improvement and working on yourself.
That's a very thoughtful approach to self-improvement in relationships. It's about striving to be the best version of yourself, not just for your partner, but also in alignment with your own values and beliefs. It's a balance between self-improvement and self-acceptance, recognizing that while perfection isn't achievable, growth and progress are. Now, let's delve into a significant moment. Finding the one often seems like finding a needle in a haystack. Can you take us through the moment you realized you had found what you were looking for?
Yes, this goes back to setting up my criteria and imagining my perfect wife. So for me specifically, it was something, it was kind of fun. We were both in a different relationship. My girlfriend at that time and her boyfriend at that time, the four of us, we met, we had dinner, and obviously we kept it civil. We didn't flirt or anything. But then 6 months later, we came out of our respective relationships, and then we started talking to each other. And the way I realized that my wife specifically was the perfect match was because I was looking at my criteria. Okay, so my wife, she was born in South Korea. And when she was 10 years old or 11 years old, they moved with her family to America. So that's like half an immigrant, okay? If you remember my immigrant checklist, that's half an immigrant because you got moved by your parents, so you didn't really have that much to say. But she had to go through a lot of adversity, and I think that builds character. And to fulfill the check mark of the immigrant status, she actually was living in Poland, out of all places, when I met her. And she was living there for about 3 or 4 years, and I kind of rediscovered Europe because of her. So that was that. Korean background, so the family values are kind of like where I like them to be. I also love Korean food, by the way, so that's not something you should underestimate. You should have similar values on that part. What else? She is an entrepreneur, so she basically started her own online company with her business partner over a decade ago, and I think that's very admirable. And so that was checked off. Obviously, she's beautiful. I still feel today like I'm the luckiest guy in the world. Honey, if you see this, I think I married her out of my league. So, I'm glad because it worked out. I have no idea, but it just worked out. I'm very happy about that. What else did I have? So we have ethnicity, is super funny. We laugh a lot. That's very important. We generally have no problems talking about money, even though I feel like I'm a little bit more on the spot and I'm more planning ahead of time. She never has trouble talking to me about it. We talked about kids. Even though we both, when we met, we weren't really sure if we want to have kids. I'm glad that we decided that we do want to have kids, and now we have 2 beautiful children. And it just worked out that way. So once you think clearly about who you want to date, once you see that person in front of you, it's much easier to determine, hey, wait a second, that's exactly it. And if you're lucky, you'll find her, and sooner or later, But luck is basically just preparation and over time. Okay, so if you're prepared over time, you'll get lucky.
Opposites attract, true or false?
Opposites attract, but opposites alone are not enough for long-term relationships. And instead, I actually think if you marry the opposite, you're almost doomed for failure.
Impact of no type in dating.
If you don't have a type that you're dating, you'll just end up with whatever comes in front of you and sparks your love interest. But that, again, might be maybe something good for the short term and when you're in the learning phase. But if you don't specify a type, you probably just, like I said, end up with what's in front of you. And B, if you don't have a type, you'll never know if the perfect person is in front of you.
Early relationships influence on you.
I think it's good to have early relationships, not just to learn and prepare for the real one, but also maybe to get a couple of heartbreaks in there. There's nothing wrong with it. And I believe that if you have a couple of challenges along the way, it will only make you a better person.
Must try 20s experience.
In your 20s, you got to let the cat out of the bag. You got to have some fun, live your life, live experiences. You're alone most of the time if you choose to. And you don't have a lot of responsibilities. And that gives you the perfect scenario to try out things and have fun and then not get into the death spiral of the continuous midlife crisis when you get older, when you settle down with somebody else. It doesn't mean that the rest of your life is boring, but it's a good time to become the person that you want your perfect partner to date at some point.
Long distance relationship insights.
Sometimes it sucks. Overall, I think it contributes to a good relationship when it comes to learning how to communicate with each other. I think you can always see whether the glass is half full or half empty. I think if you take the best out of long distance relationship, it's the constant communication, not just sitting in front of the TV and watching Netflix, which is nice and it's fun at the right time. But especially in the beginning of a relationship, if you can get over that hump of, not being together all the time and you're forced to communicate every day, you can take away a couple of good things from that.
Balancing self-improvement and acceptance.
You continuously have to improve yourself, whether you are single or married. And especially when you're married, I see that a lot of people are just falling off the bandwagon. Once they're married, they feel like settling down means stopping to work on you. But when it comes to finding the right person, you have to imagine, who would that person like to date? Am I that person? How do I become that person? And that should continue as you age. You should never stop growing, because either you grow or you die.
Moment you knew you found the one.
I knew I found the one because she checked off all the boxes and more. So when I say to my wife, "You are more than I ever dreamed of," I'm actually not exaggerating. It's literally how it has been, and it only happened because I took the time to define who I would love to spend the rest of my time with.
To close, what's your one piece of advice for finding a life partner?
Make sure that you know what you're looking for and work on yourself to become the perfect partner of your perfect person.